Plans for the congressman to fly around the world. Not only is it first-class flying, but they're big jets, and they're used by, I guess they need about 8 members, but you always have to have 4 Republicans. You got to be bipartisan. 4 Republicans and 4 Democrats. Take your wives with you. Go on. Big jets. And what really gets to me about some of that is I find some people who fly in those jets burn out all that energy are greenies. And sometimes we get a bad rap because we don't care about the environment. You know, if you're a true constitutionalist, good conservative, libertarian, you care about property. That's why it should be in the hands of private individuals. They take much better care of property than anybody else. They burn more energy than about 50, except for about 15 countries. They burn more energy than all the rest of the countries. But just think of the energy and the carbons that they put out into the air in countries like Iraq. I had somebody in my office the other day, and the lady's expertise, she was a journalist on these burn pits. And I had to confess I didn't know a whole lot about burn pits, but she says that it's been traditional, but they're especially bad in Iraq. That means that when Halliburton and other companies get paid umpteen dollars, millions of dollars to do their things up there, all their waste gets into a pit, an open pit. Medical supplies, rubber supplies, chemical supplies, and these pits burn constantly. And the predictions now are made that, you know, we had trouble with Persian Gulf War syndrome, that there's going to be a lot of that, but we already have such a tragedy going on. The lost lives, of course. Between the 2 wars, we lost 5,000. We had 40,000 who have been injured. And we have hundreds of thousands who now are applying, and probably most of them legitimately. People coming back who have post-traumatic stress syndrome. An epidemic of suicide these days. I have one staff person whose brother's on his way back to Iraq the 5th time to Iraq. And then they wonder why, as a candidate, our campaign ended up getting more money from the military than all the rest put together. Our financial affairs, I don't need to tell you, they're a mess, but they're probably even worse than I can even comprehend. Because I don't think anybody can quite comprehend $100 trillion of financial obligations. And the reason you really can't comprehend it is because these obligations are floating. They're not fixed. You know, they talk about Social Security going back broke in a certain year. Well, there's no way they can predict. Right now, they're moving up the date. Why? Less people are working, and cash flow is much reduced. And therefore, it's shortening the period of time where it'll be a negative balance. But then the other part that they don't know is what the costs are going to be, what the cost of living will be. It's going to be automatically higher. So your prices are going up, your revenues are going down, less people working, more people living longer, and on, and yet they claim that they're good managers of our affair, and all it is a tremendous attack on our liberties. There's been an 18% reduction in tax revenues since the recession. I think we should cheer that. It wasn't on purpose, it wasn't on policy, it was by default. It's just because they messed up the economy so bad. But the bad news is they probably have increased spending by that amount of money and made it that much worse. So you can't have decreasing revenues, continue to spend more money, have all these entitlement obligations, a national debt of $11 trillion. But right now, currently, our national debt is going up at the rate of $2 trillion a year. You hear other figures, but it's $2 trillion a year. Because, you know, we take all the funds away from the other trust funds. The other day we had a vote, we had used up all the highway trust funds, and so they had to replenish them, so that quick. It was a suspension vote, two-thirds vote, put $7 billion